Here to brief?
I like to know everything I can before venturing off to a new place.
Just beyond the forested hills of Glintwood Hollow lies the wetlands known as Dredger's Mine. Much like the Hollow, the Enclave prospected many of the raw materials needed for its ambitious construct. Oh, it's no coincidence you found the Ark of the Stricken Earth near a collapsed mine. Likely, it was used for the excavation of minerals and metals before the surge. I believe the natural surroundings of the mire were also rich in resources. The Enclave even settled a small...
Which is where I might find that masked figure. That was what...
It's possible. Regardless,
What can you tell me about Poldervale? It seems like it was settled pretty far from their capital.
Indeed. Though, when you take instantaneous travel through loom gates into account, what constitutes a remote village changes. The village was likely settled to facilitate the prospecting of raw materials in the outskirts. Resources farmed here could easily be transported across the Enclave through the use of loom gates.
Apart from the village, it sounds like this is mostly untamed lands. In the expectation that it will be more dangerous than the Hollow.
I would expect so, yes. We've made camp in a way station that's pretty far from Denevron. And the mire yet even more remote. Everything I've read says the deeper into the outskirts of the Enclave one ventures, the more wild and untamed...
You're saying my battle with the Great Ark might be looking like child's play soon?
Possibly?
Some of the others didn't seem so sure we should be trying to track down the masked figure. What do you think?
History demands we find them. If the masked figure truly is a Hearthsider, their stories and what they've lived through in here would be invaluable to our understanding of the Enclave and of the Surge.
Sounds like I'd better find them then. Thanks for the info, Lane. I think I'm ready to head out.
My pleasure. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. I didn't have the biggest role to play in the loom gates repair. I'm not exactly handy with a hammer. But watching the band work gave me an idea for a new alchemical project. Its working name is a loom shard.
A loom shard?
Yes, it's a shard that could draw magic from a loom gate and bring you back to camp safely.
How is this different from Aurea pulling me back?
Unaided, Aurea can only summon enough magic to bring you back safely, not all the valuables you might have collected on your expedition. Because this shard draws magic from the tapestry, it can bring you back safely with all you've gathered.
Thanks, Lane.
Ready?
Let's do this.
First trip through the Loom Gate is a success.
Hopefully more trips to come. To new and exciting places. set of schematics. Tarmakai smithing? Maybe Sola would know.
Good balance of protection and mobility. Good balance of protection and mobility.
The Sodden Pass. A fitting name for the road to the wetlands.
According to the maps, you're getting close to Dredge's Mire. I know you're excited to explore, But first things first. Use our key swatch with a loom gate in the mire so that it's easy to return.
Right. I'll check the maps.
Perfect. I can see the connection. We'll be able to come back whenever we'd like.
Without having to trek through all the mud.
The beauty of instantaneous travel. Keys watches are an ingenious system for connecting loom gates together. My darling, I suspect the way the light filters through the Enclave's veil makes you look more luminous than ever.
Stop. It'll go to my head.
Should I come back later?
Sorry, Bryn. Sometimes we get lost in our little...
But since you're here, I was... I don't know if you know this, but my wife is an extremely talented smith who was apprenticed under a variety of world-class teachers.
Well, a revolving door of mentors doesn't exactly facilitate the most stable education, especially when one of them drops dead in front of you.
Oh, details. You've made more of your varied experience than most could glean from a lifetime. Anyway, I know you always hoped to further your education with the Tarmakine smithing school's technique, so I asked Lane to look into whether or not any Tarmakine smithing was ever practiced here in the Enclave.
Oh, Dal. You shouldn't have. It's...
What could be more pressing than helping my wife fulfill her lifelong dreams? As luck would have it, there were Tarmakine smiths here before the search.
Really?
Perhaps our daring point might be able to keep a lookout for anything those smiths might have left behind.
I mean,
Of course. I'd be happy to...
Perfect.
Anything in particular?
the Tarmakine smithing techniques are exceptionally complex, and as such, pretty rare across the Maida. It might be too much to hope for anything close to a completed armor set, but prototypes or even notes pertaining to the style would be useful. I'd take anything.
You might be in luck. I found a schematic. Is this what you're looking for?
Yes, this schematic is for a Tarmakine.
Could we forge a helm using...
Unfortunately, the schematic isn't finished. But sometimes, Smith, if you found something like that, I might be able to forge the helm. Going to need more feathers.
Bryn, do you have a moment?
For my favourite lawkeeper? Absolutely.
I'm the only lawkeeper here, though.
Yes. Doesn't mean you aren't my favourite. So, what do you...
What was it? Oh, yes. I'm looking to do some experiments with alchemical reagents, and was wondering if you could source me some.
That sounds like something I could help with.
I won't waste your time with specifics. I just think it'll produce something helpful, if my hypothesis is correct.
Well, my last lawkeeper sent me out all the time for herbs that he'd inevitably just stuff in a pipe and smoke.
Oh. No, that makes sense, then. Yes. Sorry. I think I can help Oria with the Watcher's Wisp.
Oh, after what happened in the Veil's Shadow, any improvement to the scry is worth making.
Exactly. I noticed that she needs a break before guiding you again. The tangles were so bad in the shadow, she couldn't use the wisp at all.
The scry has been better inside the Enclave, but we shouldn't take any chances. What do you need?
There's a plant that only grows here in the Enclave. It expresses a clarifying magical essence. I think I can use it.
That'd be really...
I think so too. Now...
Where can I find...
Oh, right. At night, in the outskirts, they glow, so you won't be able to identify them during the daytime. And I believe they mostly grow in clusters near...
Go to the outskirts at night and grab some glowing plants near bodies of water.
Well, they have a more accurate name than that. I won't overcomplicate it. But they're referred to locally as... which refers to a moment in the Enclave's history early on, when their second leader, Diane, she was the right person at the right time for the Enclave and brokered several extremely
The more you talk, the longer you'll wait.
Sorry, yes, please, go. Bring them to me as soon as you can. Thank you.
These must be the glowing plants Lane mentioned. This is Poldervale, but what happened? The village is completely frozen.
This can't be natural.
I think it's safe to say no one lives here. Where else could I look for a Hearthsider?
I can't quite remember why, but something tells me we should search for a watchtower. The maps indicate there may be some nearby.
Doubt security would be active if the village was vacated.
Just trust me on this. I've got some cross-referencing to do.
All right, Bryn. You heard them.
Watchtower. Got it. Just like home. You're round a corner and a glacier's right there to greet you. There's no way this is natural. Feels like frost magic. Another drink.
This one doesn't seem as aggressive. Must not be rutting.
Should leave you alone unless you get close. I've got you.
Solar, any thoughts on how I might go about withstanding cold temperatures while I search for the key swatch?
With the right materials, any design for armor could give you some resistance to frost.
What kind of material?
A Callahide would do the trick for.
There are plenty of those prowling in the outskirts.
Not too heavy, not too light.
The air's thick, almost sour. What's happened?
This can't be natural.
This is exactly what happened to Taza after the surge when all the aeroliths failed. It must be something like that.
There's a watchtower ahead.
Found the tome I was looking for. It mentioned that key swatches were held by security in the Enclave's more remote villages. It ensured their loom gates could be reconnected to more central locations if needed. Perhaps our Hardsider won't be in the watchtower, but a key swatch to Deneveran could be.
Genius, Lane. Nice work.
According to this logbook, all the key swatches were removed from the Poldervale Watch a few years after the surge.
Strange.
But there was one key swatch that was borrowed and never returned by the mayor at his residence in Poldervale.
Perhaps it's still there.
It'll be tough for me to withstand the cold long enough to search for it.
The rest of the band could help you navigate that? Try discussing the challenge with a few of them next time you're at camp. It's quite a thing, being rescued by the scry.
Disorienting. But better than the...
I'll only ever use it when I'm sure it's needed.
It's really nice, having the sensation of you and the others watching over me. You're like the guardian spirits from the stories every Carnhaven child knows. You protect, advise, and of course bicker.
Well, I don't know about spirits, but we'll be your guardians any day.
How exactly...
Similar to a loom gate, but much more I maintain a constant flow of magic into the scry, and it connects to you.
Letting you see the area around...
In an emergency, I can, I guess yank is the best term, on that connection.
How come you never hear about scries being used by military? Or to bring nobles home after a night of debauchery?
Rarity and expertise. Scries are enclave enchantments. On top of that, it takes someone with exceptional control and stamina when channeling magic to use one for any length of...
Got it. That's why points become watchers. Compared to my last band, I'm glad we actually use the scry.
Not as glad as I am that the loom gates seem to extend its effective. Just don't take it as a license to be reckless. Risky business flirting with death.
Aurea, it's Lane, by the way.
What's that?
They don't like to be called Lane Frey. I heard you saying it to Bryn earlier. That's the name their parents chose. Lane is the name they chose.
Fair enough. Didn't realize. Thank you for letting me know. Lane.
Hey, Lane. Got any ideas on how I'm...
I imagine long underwear might help.
Maybe an alchemical?
I'm teasing. Drinking a frost shroud phial would do the trick. It makes cold temperatures much... I have some phials already prepared for you. I had the perfect alembic for them, thanks to our recent improvements.
So, we're hunting a rogue key swatch, and when dealing with temperature, your magic can directly...
I'm guessing we fight frost with flame?
Just so. Like building a fire on a cold night, except much faster. And the night has teeth and talons.
Unfortunately, I don't have a flame strand yet.
It's a tall order, but defeating a drake would allow us to weave a strand of its power.
Drakes and I are due for a reckoning, anyway.
Spoken like a...
Take them out from a distance, and they'll never... ever know you were there. proud of this one. Fit for a point. Try to bring this back in one piece.
Out in the field, you mentioned you recognize the sudden change.
The same rapid shifts racked Tarza shortly after the surge. The deserts had been somewhat tamed by enchanted stones. The aeroliths. Each kingdom would boast they had the greatest coverage. Ironically, while the Tarzan nobility were bragging they each had more, the real concentration of them was in Judea. That did not end well.
Let me guess. Something awful happened to them after the surge.
The enchantments cascaded out of control. One would skew the weather too far, others would react.
Like a pendulum swing, but getting stronger.
Yes, rapid and extreme. Just like what we're seeing here. Thankfully, this means they should be somewhat predictable. The more we learn about each locale, the better we'll be able to predict the changes.
So, keep exploring and wear my warm pants now and then. Can do.
So, now that I'm done being frigid and unwelcoming,
You were only lukewarm.
sure. How about
Sounds fun.
simple? If you were a wild animal, what would you be?
Easy.
You fancy yourself majestic enough to inspire?
More like I'm fiery and driven.
Fine, I can see that.
And yourself?
An Eastern Reef Crake.
A crake? Somehow I pictured fewer tentacles and destroyed ships in your wake.
You're thinking of the big ones. An Eastern Reef Crake is pretty small and harmless, but all crakes are misunderstood. They are incredibly intelligent creatures. They actually only attack when their nest is under threat. So yeah, I'd be a crake, happily living underwater.
Oh, it's very exciting to see one of the Enclave's enchanted weapon designs firsthand. I'm sure Sola will have a field day with it.
I don't need any particularly magical materials for it, I notice.
No, that's where I come in. I preserve numerous byproducts alongside each resonance as part of the weaving process. I have got, in the literal and figurative sense, your back. They are quite the thing, aren't they? Tangles, I mean.
After what it was like outside the Enclave, the ones in here are child's play.
It is an enduring mystery as to why the Veil's shadow is flooded with them. I did not expect that they would be so common inside the Enclave.
Are they common
No. They were theoretical until the Veil went up. And then, of course, they became political.
What did you mean by...
The surge was specifically catastrophic towards enchanted equipment. Explosions, out-of-control activations, you name it. And tell me, logically, who were the most likely people to have enchanted items on or around them?
the rich and powerful?
Well done. So, in a single moment, you have what seem to be hundreds of assassinations.
And decades of war followed.
As I said, political.
What exactly are tangles?
To our best understanding, magic is more than just energy. As far as we know, raw magic is a physical substance, but normally invisible. Our mantles gather it from the air as we move, but tangles prove it can concentrate on its own.
You said they were theoretical. What did you mean?
Lane and I have been digging. The only research on tangles we could find were thought experiments until the Veil's appearance. As you might expect, that research was done here in the Enclave. Apparently, they did not publish everything they knew.
Thanks, Dom. That helps me understand them better.
Ultimately, the most practical advice I can give is very simple. Don't stand in the murder cloud.
Well pleased with the reforge. There's another option too.
Not the same thing?
No. Enhancing uses more of the same materials from the original construction. I use them to add a bit more protection to your armor. Worth doing if you have extra materials. I'll be able to do more as we build... Did you see the size of that mine entrance?
You mean the one behind the giant ark that woke up and tried to wallop?
That's the one. Given the size of the entrance, I can only imagine their yields must have been incredible.
I've heard the rich resources are a big part of why weavers first settled this area.
The ores from the Enclave are high grade. I hope I'm not prying by bringing this up, but Dom and Arya told me about your last bout.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like it was pretty rough.
It wasn't great, that's for sure. I mean, I gave up everything I knew to become a weaver. And it only took a couple of weeks for me to realize I had chased the wrong caravan out of town. All that band did was drink and fight. I stuck around, thinking I might be able to make a difference if I became Aaron chose someone else to take his place in the end.
You're in better hands now. I promise. Even though I'm sure your last few days with us have been a lot. Do you have any regrets about leaving?
I'm not one for getting lost in the past. I prefer to keep my eyes on what's in front of me. So, no regrets.
Glad to hear you're moving on. But, you know, sometimes it takes us a little while to process our experience. If you ever do need to dwell on the past.
Thanks, Sola.
You know there's a trick to picking your armor when dealing with...
Do tell.
If you're going to be up against extreme cold or heat, lighter armors can be the better choice. They can't provide raw protection like steel, but metals also move temperature very quickly. Lighter armors layer cloth and leathers. Much better for insulation, especially if you pick the...
I'll keep that in mind.
Bryn, one would think you've been fighting massive constructs your entire life.
It's a newer hobby I've picked up. On account of only having seen one for the first time recently.
Yes, it's quite something to see a massive Archon after studying their role in history for so long.
You seem a little concerned about something.
Oh, no. That Arcs are still functioning in the Enclave is a revelatory discovery. I'm elated, of course. It's just... this Archon brings up more questions than it answers. For starters, Arcs of this variety tended to carry a slate bar to help break rocks. It was clearly working in the nearby mine. One must wonder whether its tool was lost in a cave-in. It's hard to say, really. Another mystery, there's no record of Archon hostility towards Weavers. Did they turn on their creators after the Surge?
Is this just about the Arcs?
It's about everything. I suspect we're chasing dead ends. None of these leads fill me with any sort of confidence.
Truthfully, I've been having some of the same doubts.
You are?
Of course. And if we're alone, that makes our complicated situation, well, even more complicated.
Yeah, it does.
All we can do is put one foot in front of the other. If we're ever going to solve this puzzle, it will only happen piece by piece.
You're right about that. More pieces would help, though. Maybe if you track down other Arcs, we might start to understand what's going...
More information about anything trying to kill me is probably a good thing. Though it does mean getting close to the things trying to kill me.
Yes, do try not to die in the process, as that would render the information less useful. One moment, Bryn. I just need to stir twice clockwise, filter the sediment, put it aside for Darm's moisturizing cream. Good. Now, did I forget something when last we... I was after... some ingredients to enhance the...
Don't worry. No problems there. I know we chatted before, but
Well, I came from Judea. You already know that. I'm an enthusiastic student of the alchemical arts. Oh, there's more to my family. I'm my father's third child, but I have 3 siblings. I was fairly close to 2 of them. The firstborn is 12 years older than me and never had much interest.
was that hard on you?
It was normal to be in that situation, I'd say. By the time I was old enough to hold a conversation, he was already playing the political game. Took after my mother in that regard. Hold on, I need to do. Investigate why Sola keeps borrowing moisturizing cream from Darm instead of coming to me to get her own.
Big list of tasks you've got.
Like you wouldn't believe.
Well, how about I let you get back to it, and we'll talk once I found what you're after.
That would be great. Knocking out a few of these to-do items will help a lot. Watch your step out there.
Will do.
I couldn't help overhear Darm mentioning the Surge's impact on the politics of our lands.
You really do pay attention to what happens around.
A survival instinct. Growing up in Judea, you realize the walls have ears. If some of those ears aren't yours, you're at a disadvantage. That was actually the problem, you see?
The problem?
After the Surge cascaded through the Maida, every kind of long-range magical so you have magical chaos and no way to confirm if your nation is under attack. You assume the worst, and Judea, my homeland, was hit hard. Our trade fleets had become rather dependent on magical navigation.
And they couldn't find their way home.
Or at least to a safe harbor. You could argue the loss of our fleets was worse than any individual war.
Because the trade network suddenly collapsed. My parents used to talk about shortages during those years.
Yes. And the worst wars are fought over resources when people are dead. I very much hope we can find the true cause of all that suffering and a way out to share it with the rest of the world after we do.
Lane, any thoughts on why the mayor of Poldervale kept a key swatch to Denevron in his home?
Not personally, but I do know what the Poldervale Watch suspected about it.
Really?
At the back of the logbook, those on watch would leave small notes for whoever was taking. Most of it appears to be idle gossip, but apparently popular belief was that the mayor had a mistress on the side.
Ah, a wife in Poldervale and a mistress in Denevron.
Instantaneous travel would be necessary to not get caught.
Goodness. Small towns are the same everywhere, aren't they?
What is there to do in them but talk?
Sev mentioned something about Udea using aeroliths, like Taza.
That's true, yes. It was well before my time, but they are not well regarded in our history.
What happened to them?
You're aware Udea had legendary trade fleets that made it the richest federation in the Maida.
Yes, but not since the...
It turns out when you rely on magic to keep your harbors safe, and magic itself breaks in something like the there's a price to be paid.
So, how often do I need to return to camp? Do you need me to...
That's entirely up to you. Points privilege. You're the one taking the risks, so you can gauge how far and how long you can push. From time to time, I or the folks around the camp might have requests, but we'll defer to your... And if you get into trouble, I'll pull you to safety.
Got it. A lot of
Points privilege.
Can I ask how you knew to pack up the camp outside
The tangles were shifting. They'd been static the entire... And then, suddenly, just as an arc deflects a wave of Drake's breath, they...
How do you know to run to me?
The tangles closed down the path the caravan took in. And it wasn't like I was going to abandon you.
I believe I was promised one epic tale on how you discovered the route into the Vale's shadow.
I suppose I did promise you. Rumors of a safe passage into the shadow had been swirling among Weaver circles for the last 5 years. They'd always piqued my interest, but I couldn't get a solid lead on it until 2 years ago. Weavers in a caravan bound for Don Brennig told me they no longer had a point. They'd lost an older Casil fellow who journeyed on the Strand Road before the surge. He insisted on one last big expedition before his retirement, into the Vale's shadow. It killed him, but they got pretty close.
So you got the route from that caravan?
Not quite. The point that died was the one who led them in. He had the trade road, but it was confirmation that getting close to the Vale was possible. Eventually, I was able to trade an Ash Peak Drake's Tooth for a map of the trade roads with a dubious Ashar woman in Tars.
A Drake's tooth?
Some people believe grinding the tooth of a drake into a powder and consuming it could have stimulating properties.
Ah.
Fools. Regardless, between the map and the other leads, I was able to plan the route that led us to the Vale's shadow a fortnight ago. The final missing piece was an apprentice point to take on the expedition with me.
Glad I could help. Thanks for...
What's a good adventure if you can't regale someone with the tale later?
and unfettered access to the Enclave's capital.
Amazing, Bryn.
Denevron awaits.
Impressive, Bryn. We're on our way to Denevron. Thanks to you.
Everyone helped. I just did my part.
In a well-run band, everything takes teamwork, that's for sure. But don't downplay your role. Since you've been Crisis promoted to Point, we've felled a great arc, restored a construct, and now we've got access to the Enclave's capital. Not everyone could accomplish what you have, let alone in our current In fact, most would crumble under the pressure.
Don't get me wrong, I know I'm doing good here. But honestly, having just left a band that fought and backstabbed one another, I really appreciate the level of teamwork that went into this. The others are lifting me up, and I don't take that for granted.
That's good to hear. I know they're as impressed with you as I am.
Thanks, Aurea.
Bryn, a moment. I'm collecting data, surveying the team, so to speak. One question is all I need answered. Do you think Ava deserves a share in any rewards for the work undertaken by the Weaver Band?
Of course. but we might have to find something other than gold and jewels.
Further elaboration is optional, of course, but
Back in Carnhaven, we took our pack beasts to the hot springs. I think she'd love a spa day up in the mountains, don't you?
oh, that's very good.
Anything else you need?
No, that's quite enough for now. Thank you. I took a break from work earlier to watch you on the scribe. Your confidence as you navigate hostile environments, poetry in motion, even. If you weren't already journaling your exploits, I'd be dedicating page upon page to them.
I don't get to see myself from the outside very often.
Alas, if only I were an accomplice.
I want to see what I look like when I'm exploring places that haven't been seen.
Even without pictorial aids, you look...
You had those adjectives ready to roll. Been watching me.
Yes, it's what naturally came. Words are more my specialty, as I said.
Incredible.
I've traveled all over, but I've never seen a city quite like this.
Denevron. The Enclave's capital city. The architecture was built to accommodate the Enclave's largest archons.
Good. I thought I'd shrunk using the loom gate.
The city looks as though it's been completely abandoned.
Let's break down the search. Who's got ideas?
Government and archives will establish a history. The closest government buildings can be found in the steppes. You're clearly in Upper Denevron, so according to our map, it shouldn't be far.
People need supplies. Supplies are in markets. And the market's in Lower Denevron.
And there's the bastion on the edge of the city. The military would be involved in any disaster response, and the surge certainly counts. 3 good leads. Bryn, it's your call. This must be the Atrium of Champions.
Champions?
The most accomplished weavers were honored with statues.
That statue kind of looks like you, Aurea. Could it be...
My mother, Shireen. I knew she was a celebrated weaver before the Surge, but this...
Your mother has a statue here.
I suppose she does.
An Ark of the Living Flame. Lightly armored compared to the others, but expect things to get hot.
unpredictable and powerful.
If the surge hadn't hit so hard, the steps would lead to the spire. Alas. Elected representatives would convene there, including the Eye, the Enclave's leader.
Imagine a time when Weavers had our own governing body.
Odd. That ark's just standing there. No sign of damage, but there's something lodged in the back plate. It's a thingy.
So technical. I'll take a look later.
Watch the tangles coming out of that chasm. The surge hit this place hard.
Look, more coral.
Must have been growing below ground.
Would explain why there's so much damage here from the surge.